Hello everybody and welcome to Birdsnest Designs. My name is Denise Cox and I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Canada. And I have an amazingly fun double fold card to share with you today. So here's the card here. Isn't that cute? This is using the Flowering Rain Boots stamp set, which is in the new January to June mini catalog. It's also my stamp of the month for February. So everybody in that club gets this stamp set, and then they get 3 card kits to put together. And this is one of the cards that we're going to have in that kit. So if you'd like more information on my Stamp of the Month Club, then you can visit my blog on my website at createwithbirdsnest.ca, and under online classes, all of the information will be there. All right, so let's get started. Like I said, this is a brand new stamp set from that mini catalog. It does have coordinating rain boots dies. Aren't those nice? I love that it cuts out all of the images in the stamp set. All right, so here is the card once again. So fun. All right, so we're using a few different items today. We've got the stamp set. We've got some of the Sunshine and Rainbows designer series paper here. This is what this blue pattern is here. This is a free celebration item. So if you spend $60 in Canada through Stampin' Up, you can choose the Sunshine and Rainbows designer series paper for free. And we're also using the Bloom Where You're Planted designer paper from the annual catalog. I love the brick. It's nice and subtle, and it works really good with the garden theme on this card. Okay, so let's set this aside. I'm going to bring in the pieces here to create this card. And if you're in my Stamp of the Month club, then your kit is going to contain all of these pieces ready for you. So to start with, we have a card base. Now it's not a traditional card that opens full, as we saw. So this piece just measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and that's Misty Moonlight. I've got another piece of Misty Moonlight here, which is a 3 1/4 inch square. And then we're pairing that with some gray granite. So this is 4 by 5 1/4. And then we have the 2 panels, 3 1/2 by 4, and it's scored at 1/2 inch along the 4-inch side. So you've got this 1/2 inch flap. And 3 by 3 1/2, again, scored at 1/2 inch on the long side. Then, of course, we need some basic white. So I've got a 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 panel here, a 3/8 by 3 1/4 inch strip for our greeting, just a scrap piece here for stamping, and then, of course, the designer series paper pieces. So these are 3/4 inch by 3 7/8. This other brick one here is 2 3/4 square, and our Misty Moonlight pattern paper is 3 by 3. All right, so let's get started. We're first off going to take our 3 7/8 piece here. So that's, 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we're going to attach our 2 pieces of brick designer series paper strips right to the top. And I'm going to use my Stampin' seal for that. I haven't used it in a little bit. So there we go. And just do that. So we're going to attach one right flush to the very top. And then we're going to put the other one right along the very bottom. Perfect. So there we go. Now we're going to attach that to our 4 by 5 1/4 piece of gray granite. And we want just that nice thin border all the way around, just to kind of frame this piece in and make that design in the bricks really pop. Just attach that like so. Okay, so let's set that aside for a moment. And we're going to take out those 2 panels that I showed you, the ones that are already scored. So let's go ahead and we're going to fold that on the score line. And then I'm going to use my bone folder to make sure that that crease is nice and tight. Okay, same with this one. We'll just fold it under. Okay, now the larger one is our left side panel. So I'm going to hold it open with the flap. Sorry, I lost the word. With the flap to the left side. And then I'm going to do the same here with a flap to the right side, just so that I can remember which side they're going to go on while I'm creating. So let's then attach our designer series paper. So we're going to use our our 2 3/4 inch square piece of the bricks, and we're going to attach that to the right hand panel. Perfect. And then we're going to use this piece of designer series paper as well as our Misty Moonlight cardstock. So we can go ahead and attach that. Oops. Okay, and then this whole piece is going to get attached onto here. If you notice when I'm using my Stampin' Seal, when I remember, and I try to remember every time, you're going to run it down and then you kind of flick it back like this, and that keeps your adhesive on the roller, so the next time you go to use it, you don't have to use your finger to get it started, which you will see me doing often because I sometimes forget. So let's just get this on here. Okay, so here is our left and right panels. Now we want to attach them onto the card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal Plus. This is just like the Stampin' Seal, only it is extremely adhesive. So it's much stronger adhesive than the regular Stampin' Seal. So I'm going to run that along both of the panels on the back side. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to take the left panel, we're going to hold it so that the flap is to the back, and what we want to do is we want to put this so that it's evenly spaced between the brick strips. Okay, so we're just going to hold that in place. The crease is going to be right along the edge of that gray granite, and once you have it where you want it, then you're just going to push down on the back and get that nice and adhered. Okay, so there is our first flap. Then we're going to do the same thing with the right hand flap, but we're going to situate it right between our Misty Moonlight. So it lines up so that it goes right to the edge of that designer series paper. And then you're just going to push that flap down. Okay, now to cover up this mess here, this messy looking back, that's what we're going to use our 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece of Misty Moonlight for. That's going to get attached right on there, just like that. Now I am going to use my Stampin' Seal Plus just to make sure that it's nicely attached on there and it's not going to fall off. Oop. And then we're just going to attach that straight onto this Misty Moonlight. Okay, so now you can see how that card is created. And the possibilities with this card design are endless. There's so many different things you could do. You could do birthday cards, so many different stamp sets come to mind when I look at this kind of fold. Okay, so let's stamp. So if you're in the club, like I mentioned, you're going to have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece of basic white, as well as this little strip. And this is what we're going to stamp. So to do our stamping, there's 5 colors we're using. We're going to use Misty Moonlight, Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, Smoky Slate, and Blushing Bride. So a really nice array of Stampin' Up! Colors, and they come together so beautifully. So let's start with our watering can. So I'm going to use that with Smoky Slate. Now these are like a distinctive type of stamp, so you don't want to get too much ink on there, otherwise you're going to lose some of the detail. So just lightly press it into your ink pad and then stamp it onto your cardstock. And you'll see what I mean when I say that it's a distinctive style, because it comes up with the shading and stuff already done for you. So it's really a gorgeous, gorgeous stamp set. So there's our watering can. Now with our Misty Moonlight right here, we are going to stamp our sentiment as well as our flower pot. So the flower pot I'm going to stamp on here. Now I'm going to cut these out with my rain boot dies. So I am making sure that there's some space between, but they don't have to be too far apart. And then let's take our greeting, which says, "Every storm that comes also ends." I love that because it's so very true. Let's stamp that right onto this strip here. And I love that these are photopolymer. It's nice and easy to get them lined up on that thin strip. Okay, so there's our sentiment. We're done with the Misty Moonlight. Next we'll use our Granny Apple Green. I love this nice bright green. And we're going to use our Stems and Leaves stamp. And we'll just stamp that on here as well. Oh, that looks a bit funny to me, so I'm just going to stamp it on my scrap paper and make sure that there wasn't something on the stamp. Sometimes I do get, you know, the backings of dimensionals or some dog hair or some lint or something on the stamp, and then it won't stamp nicely, obviously. Okay, so that's that, Granny Apple Green. Daffodil Delight, we're going to stamp our seed packet. And the reason I chose Daffodil Delight for this was because I love this bright, cheerful flower that's on the front of that pack. All right, so now we have Blushing Bride, and that's going to be for our tulips. Now I just remembered that I had the rain boots on the inside of our card. So you can either stamp the rain boots and pop them out, die cut them out, sorry, and then attach them into the front, which is what I originally did on this card here. But in truth, the reason I did that was because I originally was going to put the rain boots on the front of the card when I was designing it, but I didn't really like the way it had turned out. So rather than waste them, I popped them on the inside. Now I really like the way the rain boots finish the inside of the card off. So I think this time what I'll do is I'll just stamp them directly onto the white cardstock. So the choice is yours. You can either stamp it, die cut it, and put it on. That way you make sure that your stamped image is going to be nice and exactly how you want it. Or you can stamp it on first or after it's done. Or again, you could have stamped it on here before we assembled all of this. So, or you could just leave them out, whatever you want to do. So for now, that's our stamping. And as you can see, these fabulous rain boot dies right here are going to coordinate so nicely with these gorgeous stamps. See how that is? It's just a nice and perfect cutout. You just line those dies right up tight with the edge of the stamped image, and you run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and you're gonna get them cut out perfectly. So I am gonna go over to my machine and get that done. So those are the ones we're going to need. So I'm just going to go and do that real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back and I've got these all cut out. I'm just gonna pop off these dies. And here we have our nice embellishments to finish creating this card. All right. Now comes the final touches. So what I want to do is make sure I have my Stampin' Dimensionals. Anybody who follows me knows that I love my layers and all my dimensions. So I've got mini and the regular ones. And the first thing that we're going to do is attach our greenery. So this piece here is going to get attached first. But I'm not going to just attach it without doing a little bit of configuring, because I do want to make sure. You can see on this one I wasn't as mindful, and my tulip hangs off the edge of the card, which means when it goes into the envelope, it's going to not fit completely right. So this time I want to be mindful that my tulips are going to be on the card. So I'm just going to hold those like that. Okay, now you can just do a little line, because this is all going to get covered up, so I'm not worried about this. I'm just going to do a little line there. So that's how I know where this is going to get lined up. And then I'll just use my Stampin' Seal, which I forgot to do the little flick thing again. Okay, so there we go. Got that. And now we can just use that line as a guide and stick this down. Okay, so that one's just glued flat like you saw. Then we can take our tulips. And what I'm going to do is going to use Stampin' Dimensionals, the minis. I'm just going to put 3 on the back on various of the flowers. Okay, we'll peel those backs off. And then that's going to get attached. Now the easy way to line this up is this higher up tulip is going to go on this stem here, which is longer. So if we get that one placed, then the rest should just fall into place. Okay. And there you can see that it's nice. It's still on the inside the edge, but it's nice and close. Okay, so there's our tulips. Now we'll take our watering can and we'll put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of that guy. I'm not going to put any behind the spout, because it's going to hang over onto this side, and we don't want to glue that because then our card won't open. So we're going to take that. And these are going to overlap a little bit. So we've got one of the tulips there just popping out from behind. Okay, so there's that. Then we can take our flower pot. Now, if you wanted these tulips to be coming out of the pot, you could, maneuver this and put the pot under. My intention was that it was just the flowers were in the background and we just had a bunch of gardening supplies kind of out in the front. So either way, whichever one you want. So that again was just on a couple of dimensionals. Just like that. And then we'll take our seed packet, and that's just sort of going to go in like that. So we can use our Stampin' Seal. I told you I always forget to do that. Take the pencil out of the way, and we can just sort of tuck that in like so. Okay, so last thing that we want to do to the front of the card is to attach our greeting. So again, the greeting is going to go straight across. I want this edge here to line up with the Designer Series paper. And as you can see, it hangs over the edge. So we want to make sure we're not putting our adhesive on this end, so we don't, again, want to glue our card shut. You can do this with just your regular adhesive if you want. Of course, I am going to put some dimensionals on it. And what I'm going to do is try and put them, so one on this end, obviously, so it's going to sit nice and tight and flat there. And then I just want to put a couple where the seed packet is. I do want to layer it down. So behind the storm and the sea of the comes there. Okay, so we've just got those 3 guys. Peel them off. And then I'm going to be mindful of where I put this, because I do want some of this beautiful sunflower to show through. So if we put it down below here, there, that's perfect. Okay, I'm really happy with how that turned out. So we've got our cluster of all the gardening supplies there and our nice fun double flap card. So the last thing I want to do to the front is I've got some iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. Now, as you can see, I love these, and there's hardly any left in my kit here, but there's enough to do the card. So again, members of my Stamp of the Month Club do have a few of these in their kit for them, so they can add. So I'm just going to take one of the larger ones and a couple of the smaller ones and just sort of sprinkle 3 of them on my card. Okay, so can you see those, how beautiful those iridescent rhinestones are? Those can be found in the January to June 2022 mini catalog as well. They're beautiful, and I love how they're just so iridescent and sparkly. Now, if you want to, if you followed along with me, we can now stamp the rain boots to the inside of the card if we want. And I'm just gonna get those prepared. So I do want to show you, I don't know if I've shown you guys this in a while as a reminder, but when you get your stamps, when they're photopolymer, they're in between 2 pieces of acetate. And then when you pull it out, you see these printed images on the back of the stamp case. So the intention of that is to house your stamps directly on top, and that way you can see which ones are missing, and you can make sure they're all there when you put them away. And then what I do is I just take the thicker of the 2 acetate sheets and I keep that on top to kind of keep any dirt, dust, lint, whatever off of my stamps while I'm storing them. So let's take the rain boots. And when we mount a photopolymer stamp onto the block, we always want to just set it down on our work surface flat. And then I'm just going to peel this water can off. And then we put the block down on top of the stamp to pick it up. That way it is not getting twisted or tweaked in any way, and it's going to be the way the stamp was designed to be. Now, of course, if you had a sentiment and you wanted to manipulate the shape of it, then of course you would do it the other way. But for now, we want these rain boots to be the way they are. So let's go ahead and stamp them in Misty Moonlight. And these rain boots are absolutely darling. Okay. Stamp them right on the inside here. Voila! There we go. Aren't they cute? I just love them. All right. There's our card. So thank you so much for watching. In the description of this YouTube video, I have a list of all of the supplies that I've used today. You can purchase them through my online store by clicking on the link. And if there's anything that you saw that you really liked today, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to my Birdsnest Designs YouTube channel, I'd love it if you did. And thanks again. I will see you real soon. Happy crafting!